All right, I'm going to call our Monday, July 12th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting to order at this time. And our first order of business is to go into a closed meeting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to entertain a motion to do this, and it will be resolved, the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia, hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-3711(1), discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. And it will be number 1, personnel. Do I have such a motion?
So moved. Second.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Blevins?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, now this is going to be really back to the regular meeting. And the first thing we need to do is have a motion to come out of closed meeting. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Daryl. And Vicki, you want to call the roll?
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Motts.
Aye.
Ms. Bone.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Ms. Blevins.
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, next we're going to certify our closed meeting. So I'm going to entertain a motion and I'll read you what the motion will be. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this day pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
A second? Okay, thank you both. And did you do the roll call? It was Daryl and Sarah, I believe.
Mr. Motts.
Aye.
Ms. Bone.
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd.
Aye.
Ms. Blevins.
Aye.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, and now it's time for our invocation and our pledge. And Craig takes over, our county administrator. But one thing I would like to remind everyone tonight about is to keep Steve and his family in mind. And the reason Steve isn't here tonight is he had a death in the family, and we want to remember him and his family tonight.
Yes, ma'am. If we could, let's rise for a moment of silence, and I'll lead us in the pledge. Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we are now to presentations, recognitions, and awards.
And Mr. David Clark was scheduled to be with us tonight, but he let us know earlier today that he had a conflict and was not going to be able to join us. But he did indicate if there were any questions or concerns, if you could get those to me or Vicki, we'll be glad to pass those on to him, and he'll bring back a report at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, now we're to public hearings. And our first one is a rezoning for Riverbend Nursery LLC. Emily.
Good evening. Tonight, we will go over the application for Riverbend. It's a little bit unusual. Typically, we're not talking about going from a residential to agricultural, but that is the case tonight. So we'll walk through the application. This is located, has frontage right on Childress Road. You can see sort of in the western part of the county there. The parcel is actually just over 40 acres, and it was rezoned previously to the RR with conditions for a single family residential neighborhood. And it had a site plan and everything that went along with that. And we, the proposed use is for it to go back to A1, but this purchaser plans to do nursery operations there. Most of you are familiar with Riverbend here in the county. And so even though everything around it is A1 and it is a mix of some smaller residential and some smaller farm operations, this actually is intended to be a nursery, which we allow in A1. So that's why they're asking to go back. So 2007 was the original rezoning approval date. And there was actually no portion of the project that was ever started. So no preliminary plan, no site plan, anything like that. It was purchased by the current owners in 2014. And at the time they did start some small operations there because in our RR district, we allow some small scale agriculture. But once they started using the 40 acres, they really wanted to maximize the site. So this is sort of the shape. You can see the frontage kind of next down a little bit there at Childress Road, and you can get a sense of the existing conditions there. I have a few photos and the applicant's agent is here this evening, and he'll talk to you a little bit about what they are growing there. They do a lot of things related to green roofs and the plants that are used for that. And so that's one of the main things that you'll see in the trays here at the site. The existing entrance is a pretty good sized entrance. VDOT has evaluated it and said even if it was a nursery operation that had larger trucks coming in and out, it's already sized for that. It is gravel, and you can get a sense here. This is looking up into the site. You can see our county vehicle there. And this is looking at the gate and the fencing. So when you go into the site and you follow the road, you can see some of the plastic that they have out, some of the irrigation they're already doing, and some of those smaller bed plants. So as we mentioned, VDOT already looked at that entrance, and it actually received approval in 2012, and it's still suitable. They have to use private well and septic on the site because it's not in an area served by the PSA. Certainly a 24 lot subdivision would have had 24 septics out there. They aren't proposing anything nearly that substantial, potentially with an office there. They may need one. And then water service, depending on what types of irrigation they use, could be something that they have to look at, whether it's collection or bringing things from outside, which is pretty normal with any of our agricultural uses. It's not in the flood zone, and should they decide to do buildings or anything that warrants construction, ENS and stormwater still have to be met. And our building official does work with anyone who builds structures that could be exempt due to agriculture, but choose to go through the permitting process. He's very attentive. This is in our rural designation. As you can see, everything in the area is. So even though it's a change because we were going to allow some light residential there, it still is a good fit because there's other agricultural uses and small residential uses in the area. It fits in really well with our comprehensive plan because we talk about not only maintaining that rural character, but we also talk about how important agriculture and forestry is to the county. And so this fits in. So in summary, the applicant is requesting to go back to A1, which is what it was before 2007. This would remove the proffers and allow them to continue their nursery operations or expand them. Their current business in the community already having full-time and seasonal employees. While they were able to do some small scale there on the site, they'd like to fully utilize it for nursery. This rezoning would basically just do that, revert it back and make it so that what you can do basically, as you saw on the neighboring parcels, since everything in the area is A1, that they would be able to do. We held our public hearing with the Planning Commission on the 16th. We had no members of the public to speak. All adjoining property owners were notified. There was a placard placed at the site and of course was posted online. We did not receive any inquiries. There could be other members of the public here this evening. We did have the applicant's agent speak at the Planning Commission meeting for the Planning Commission recommended unanimously with one absence to recommend approval to you all. And that's all I have. I'll be glad to take any questions you have before you open the hearing.
Any questions from board members? Okay, If not, we'll go ahead and open this public hearing, and if there's anyone from the public that would like to address us, you'll have 4 minutes, and you need to state your name and address, and we do not have anyone signed up. Are you?
I believe Mr. Simonis would like to speak on behalf of the application.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Steve Simonis with Balzer and Associates, 80 College Street. I don't have much to add. This is a little bit different, as Emily said, since we're actually asking for a down zoning. Steve Roanoke, who's the CEO of Riverbend, asked me to pass along his apologies. He planned to be here. He also had a death in the family over the weekend, so was going to be out of town tonight. They're a great operation. Mr. King probably knows them. They've had the nursery business for 30 plus years, and the live roof is what they grow out of this site. So these are the modules they do the green roofs on. They ship these things up and down the East Coast. It's a great, great business. It's really impressive to go out and see it. If you guys haven't driven by, Steve would be happy to show you around, but it's a really great facility. They're looking to expand. And as Emily said, just ideas of expanding and getting a little bit larger, whether it's greenhouses or additional grow areas, we felt it better to drop it back down to an agricultural zoning. They have been very active as well in the community, and we talked about this in our cover letter. They've set up a program where they sell certain types of their plants. It donates to a local food bank. So they are, good community business oriented folks. So Steve's excited for the opportunity to continue to expand their business, and we'd ask for your support, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead, thank you, and we'll go ahead and close this public hearing. If there's no further discussion, we'll move on to our next one, and this is the Price Mountain Telecommunication Tower. And Emily has information for us on this.
Actually, I got it. Wow, your eyes got really big. This is related to a subject that we've talked to you previously, and that is the New River Valley Emergency Communicational Regional Authority would like to construct a new tower up on the Price Mountain area. This land's currently owned by Montgomery County. We've had a couple of conversations with the 911 authority, and an agreement's been reached where the land would be transferred to the 911 authority to allow them to construct this tower. If that land is not used later on for emergency communications, it would revert back to the county. So it's just to allow them to build this tower, but in order to convey property, we have to have a public hearing to see if anyone has any questions or concerns, and that's what this is this evening.
Any questions from board members about what Craig has said? Okay, then we'll open it up for the public hearing. We have no one signed up. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this issue? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to our third one. And this is the amendment to the FY 2022 county budget. And Craig, would you like to tell us why this is on here?
Sure. This is really a formality that we have to go through anytime we have a budget amendment that amounts to more than 1% of the county's operating budget. Later on your agenda under new business, we will be reappropriating the capital projects for fiscal year 22. We'll be carrying those forward from fiscal year 21. And the estimate for those projects is $12.3 million. So we have to have a public hearing, which just allows folks to comment if they have any questions or concerns about the dollar amount of the appropriation. Again, it's a formality. It's not something that the statute started requiring.
Yeah, I think 1% is 2 point something. That's right.
Yeah, 2 point something billion. So, and we can discuss the action itself further under new business.
All right, any questions on that? Okay, anyone from the public? Opening the public hearing on this, anyone from the public? Steve, you're the only person here. You don't want to talk about all these things? Okay, seeing no one, then we'll close that public hearing and we'll move on to public address. And we have the same guidelines. If there's anyone that wants to address us on any county business, that 4 minutes, and you need to state your name and address. No one is signed up. Is there anyone that wants to talk about county business? Well, seeing no one, we'll close the public address and we'll move on to addendum. I believe we do not have one tonight. And so we'll go to items of consent that you see there, A through E. And do we have a motion to pass the items of consent? Thank you, Todd. Sherry, second. Okay. Any discussion? All right. And would you call the roll, Vicki? Thanks.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Ms. Blevins? Aye. Mr. King?
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, that takes us down to new business, and our first item is the ordinance on the rezoning Riverbend Nursery LLC that we heard about earlier.
Motion.
Thank
Second.
you. Second, okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Ms. Blevins? Aye. Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs?
Aye.
6 ayes.
All right, our second item of new business is the county capital fund project balances and purchase orders. Would you like to say anything about that, Angie, at this time, or any-
I was gonna say,
Craig or-
Angie can
There's not much to add to what Craig said.
Okay.
It is for county capital projects. It includes amounts that have not been spent and amounts that are on purchase order at the end of the year. And we'll have more for you next meeting probably for the school capital projects and other funds that need to be carried over.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All right, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Ms. Blevins? Aye. Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Vice Chair Biggs?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Okay, now to our exciting part of our agenda, and that is our county attorney report.
I actually have a request of the board. The registrar, Ms. Fire, has asked for the board to consider giving authority to set up 2 satellite voting offices for the upcoming general election in November. In order for the board to do that, you have to do it by ordinance. In order to do an ordinance, you have to advertise. And then also, since this is a voting change, you also need to do a public hearing. And so what I'm asking, would the board consider a resolution tonight authorizing staff to advertise an ordinance that would be setting up a satellite office at MP1 and here in this building, and then setting up a satellite office at Blacksburg Community Center that the registrar has worked out an agreement with. And both these satellite offices would only be open for the November general election, so the authority is limited. And then the public hearing would be, the advertising public hearing would be on August 9th. That's when the board, after that public hearing, would consider the ordinance establishing that. The reason time's a little tight, you cannot establish these offices within 60 days of the elections. And plus, this will give her time, or the registrar, to do whatever she needs to do from an advertising standpoint.
Any questions? All right, do we have a motion to pass? Okay, thank you. Second? All right. Any further discussion?
Figure out who
share.
sharing. Y'all are being quieter.
We're watching.
My only comment is I'm really glad it's happening, because I really think it's really vital, so.
Right.
All right,
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Blevins? Aye. Vice Chair Biggs?
aye.
6 ayes.
Okay,
Thank you. That's all I have.
yay. Okay. Marty, is that 2 times in a row now that you've kind of reviewed?
Wow.
That would be a streak.
Okay, all right. Mr. Meadows, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair. Just a couple items this evening. First off, I wanted to share some good news with you that we just found out today. We've received a letter from the National Association of Counties announcing that we have won a 2021 NACO National Achievement Award for our Neighbors in Need program. So I see it recognized for our efforts, and I certainly want to recognize Emily for all her work with the program for the Regional Commission on Neighbors in Need, and Jennifer, recognize you for getting it publicized and getting NACO to recognize you. That's wonderful. One other thing I want to mention, we heard from VDH this afternoon that one of the subdivisions they've been talking to us about, Walton Farms, is having some issues. They've reached out to the owner of the water system to work on getting that addressed. We had a conversation late this afternoon with emergency services, and we are going to be prepared to offer bottled water and non-potable water to the residents starting in the morning until the owner gets that address out there. We'll be working with DSA and working with VDH. Again, it's a private water system. It's not part of the PSA system, but they are county residents. We need to try to help if we can help. So we're working on that.
Do we know how many people are impacted by this?
Don't remember the number, 30.
25
I think it's
houses.
35 connections and
Wow.
Yeah, it's that situation with those private systems is unfortunate. We've got to continue to emphasize to the state their responsibilities as well, but we're going to mobilize and make sure we take care as best we can on a short-term basis.
That's a lot of folks.
it's 45 connections and 135 customers.
And that's in District B.
So we're working on that, and I'll just duly note that Madam Vice Chair, you've run a very efficient meeting tonight, but don't get used to these short agendas. We're looking into August and September, and we got a lot coming down the pike. So
Yeah, it always gets revved up.
yes, ma'am, that's all we have. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meadows. And now we're to board member reports, and Supervisor Demont, you were up first tonight.
I actually have a report. Parks and Rec Commission met last week, and we're very excited because next month we're going to get to meet at the new Creed Fields, weather permitting, which hopefully we joke on the commission that when we plan to meet at our parks, the weather never allows us. So hopefully next month we will be able to have a meeting at the parks. The Parks and Rec Commission will be able to see the finished product there. Also, we are awaiting the schools making a decision on whether or not Parks and Rec can use its facilities for basketball this fall. Basketball registration will start in very early October. And as yet, the schools have not decided whether or not they're going to allow outside agencies to use the school facilities for basketball. So if you have an opinion about that or see a school board member and wanted to share your thoughts on whether or not they should open those facilities, please do so.
Any questions on that? I do have a question.
Sure.
I don't understand. I thought when these buildings were built, there was an understanding about sharing it with county.
There was and there is, but they still ultimately, Parks and Rec still ultimately has to go through an approval process every year.
Normally it's approved before this, so we cannot register students or children for fall ball until we know the answer. This also impacts town of Blacksburg and town of Christiansburg Parks and
All right, I would
Recreation.
like to add that to the county school liaison meeting as a item.
Thank you.
That's next Monday. We'll be discussing that.
Have you reached out to them? You tell them, give you a keys, you can let them in.
I think the Parks and Rec Commission members are also planning on reaching out to them and having some discussions with their representatives as well.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Well, that was pretty big. Okay, and next we have Supervisor Bone.
No report.
No report. Well, we're glad you're back. Okay, next Supervisor Shepherd.
I would just like to report that I have no report.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Precise.
Supervisor Blevins.
No report other than that I'm glad to hear that PSA will be out tomorrow in that subdivision for those residents. And I understand that the health department was out there today as well. So hopefully we can work quickly with the state and our state officials to make sure that we take care of our citizens. So I do appreciate that they'll be out looking along. And also wanted to give a shout out to Montgomery All-Stars. They are the 2021 Babe Ruth champions. So congratulations to the ladies. Yay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor King.
Don't have no report, but I do want us all, and I know everybody does, to recognize the voter registrar's office for, I mean, I think they really do all they can
Yeah.
go to make sure everybody has sufficient way to vote.
Mhm.
And I know I heard from a few people that says that Connie and them does a great job.
Oh, yeah. And whenever you're in the building, if you just pop in and say hi to them, they're so appreciative and they really work hard. Thank you
That's all I have.
for bringing it up. Okay, I don't have anything for my report, except I did tell Steve I'd report back to him about how the meeting went, and I guess we can report back that it was really short. So, any further business or comments? If not, we are adjourned at 7:41.